About 90 million years ago, various reptiles became dominant marine predators. Originating on land, many reptiles found themselves to be unsuccessful, so as a result, these creatures adapted to living in the water in order for their species to survive. An example of one of these species is the Galapagos marine iguana. Specifically known as Embryolynchus crisitatus, the marine iguana is the only species of lizard that is truly marine. Geographically, this species is endemic to the Galapagos Islands, meaning that they are only found in the Galapagos Islands. Collectively, the Galapagos Islands are a group of islands located off the coast of South America. Typically, this species lives in colonies surrounded by shallow reefs where the extensive intertidal zone lies and the coastal lines are rocky. They like to bask on stretches of low cliffs about 2 to 5 meters above sea level. The marine iguana is also known to climb to basking spots as far as 80 meters above sea level. These creatures need access to sandy areas so that come breeding season, they may dig nests and lay their eggs. Setting up their home on the coastal edge gives them ample access to feeding and breeding grounds. Male Galapagos marine iguanas generally tend to be larger than female marine iguanas, although both genders appear similar at first glance. The average male length ranges from 5 to 6 feet, while the average female length ranges from 3.5 to 5 feet long. Both male and females can weigh anywhere from 1 to 5 pounds, and the documented average lifespan for this species in the wild is anywhere from 5 to 14 years. Breeding season happens every year starting in late August and lasts for about 3 months. Individual marine iguanas breed normally once every 2 years. These creatures reproduce sexually, and the females are ovoviviparous and lay clutches of eggs. Also during breeding season, males become very aggressive as they search for mates and defend their territory. Once mated with, the female Galapagos marine iguanas nest between the months of January through April depending on the island. Usually females lay between 1 to 6 eggs in a burrow made of sand or volcanic ash that are located inland from the water about 300 meters. Once the females have laid their clutch of eggs, they stand guard over the nest for several days until they feel like the spot is safe enough to leave. They do this so that the eggs may finish their incubation process. The incubation process takes about 95 days. After the incubation period is over, the young hatchlings emerge from their egg cases and enter the world. In appearance, these hatchlings look exactly like their parents, only smaller. With freshly being out and eager to feed, the baby Galapagos marine iguana's instincts kick in as they set off into the wild world in search for food and shelter free from the parental eye. In terms of food, the Galapagos marine iguana's prime choice is the plentiful ocean algae that grows on the underwater rocks. These large lizards are adapted to have blunt noses for grazing on seaweed, lateral flattened tails to assist in swimming, and powerful claws to grip onto the algae-covered rocks underwater. They also have well-developed lungs that allow them to hold their breath underwater for very long periods of time. This allows them to dive to deep levels and eat as much algae as they please. Since there is an abundance of algae for all of the iguanas, there is no competition among them. The only potential threat for the Galapagos marine iguanas are sharks, but that is very rare. One special adaptation that they have is the ability to expel salt from their nose glands by sneezing. They do this because when feeding, the iguanas consume great amounts of salt water, which is very toxic in large amounts. The adaptation is important to them because it allows them to excrete the concentrated sodium from the salt glands that are located in their nasal cavity. Without this adaptation, the excess amounts of sodium can accumulate within the iguana's body and eventually kill it.
The Galapagos Islands have so many species on it that it needs to be protected in order for those species on the island to not be affected. That made making it a reserve a necessity, so they did that in March of 1998. It is 133,000 kilometers squared. That makes it one of the largest reserves out there. There are other laws and catch limits for the Galapagos Islands, but there is no law specifically for the marine iguana. However, there is a very good mutual understanding to not disturb the animals on the island. The Galapagos marine iguana occurs in one of the most biodiverse areas of the world. The Galapagos Islands have long been studied and protected and were influential in the formulation of Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection. In March of 1998, a 133,000 kilometer squared area was designated as the Galapagos Marine Reserve, making it one of the world's largest protected areas. Detailed conservation and research programs have been developed which focus on studying the island's ecology, the effects of environmental fluctuation on species, and the effects of humans on wildlife. When Darwin saw these lizards on the island, he decided to describe them as hideous looking and the most disgusting, clumsy lizards. It is a little harsh, but they do have tough skin. The only way people think that marine iguanas exist is because lizards from South America could have drifted on some drift pieces and some debris all the way to the Galapagos Island, and from there they formed and developed into the weird creatures that they are today. The Galapagos marine iguana are classified as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List, so they are not yet endangered, but if we keep at it like we are now, they will be. The Galapagos is home to a very diverse range of marine life, so of course there's overfishing in the islands for the rare organisms. The sea cucumber is one of those, but thankfully in the early 1990s an executive decree banned all fishing of sea cucumbers. That same ban was lifted and made into a quota for sea cucumbers and lobsters, so the waters in that area are running significantly low in those organisms, which is why sea urchins are so abundant there as well. In 1986, the Galapagos Marine Reserve was established. In 2001, UNESCO expanded the World Heritage Site status of the Galapagos Islands to include the Galapagos Marine Reserve. Then in March 2016, the Ecuador government made 21 conservation areas. This took up about a third of the Galapagos Islands. The new sanctuary there is 40,000 kilometers squared. This also helps the shark population since that is where the greatest concentration of sharks can be found. These laws and regulations for the island do not only help the marine iguanas, but everything in their habitat as well. Climate change is a huge threat to the Galapagos, but because we cannot reverse our actions, all we can do is change our ways and monitor it. Monitoring climate change helps the conservation of the Galapagos and the animals on it. There are also invasive species put on the islands. It is estimated that there are 1,700 invasive species on that island. This makes things difficult for the native animals, like the marine iguana, to function properly. Now they have to hide their eggs and their young because of cats, rats, etc. will eat them. Now, in order to avoid that, they check all bags to and from the Galapagos. They are trying to get rid of species, but that directly affect the animals, but of course that is a very difficult thing to do. The tourist side of the Galapagos is very efficient in being clean. Not polluting the island and they are always patrolling for trash and other pollutants. They have videos on their website that teach people the importance of being clean and how pollution not only affects the island but the world as a whole. The Galapagos is also advanced in sustainable energy. They implement it in most of the urban areas in order to help with the factors of an increasing population. They are a shining example of ecotourism as well. They hope to promote it globally so that others follow in their footsteps.